Just testing audio. Okay. 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 Bye. Just testing audio.
All right, Arlene, I think we have a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, Director Duenas? Okay. Would
I
you
don't
mind
see
giving him a call?
Sure. Sorry, Chairman, it's going to voicemail.
148.
All right, everybody. Arlene's still trying to contact the directors. We'll give it a few more minutes and then we'll make a decision. Hey, Arlene.
Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Dave, are you there?
Hi, I can see Dave
Yes,
on.
sir. I apologize. I was on a important call and I realized I was late. Anyway, I'm here.
All right, sounds good. So we have a quorum, I believe, so we can get started now. Arlene, let me know when you're good on the recording. All right. Good afternoon. This is the Guam EPA Board of Directors regular meeting. Today's date is Thursday, December 16, 2021. The approximate time is 4:00 p.m. This meeting is being recorded. Arlene, you want to complete the roll call?
Sure.
Present, calling from Tamuning.
Chairman Stephen Carbolito. Vice Chairman Stephen Carrera. Not present for record. Director Flory Sanchez. Not present.
Here,
Director
calling
Stephen
from Agate.
Hollister.
Half a day.
Director
I
Monica
am
De Oro.
joining from Hagåtña, but I'll be on the road in this meeting.
Director Dave Dueñas.
Oh,
You're
I'm
muted.
sorry. Present, calling from Dedido. Thank you.
Here calling from
Director Fran
Telefónico.
Castro. Director Wayne Bigler.
All right, thank
Not
you. Hearing
present.
that we have a
you.
quorum, our meeting's being streamed, and the publication went out, we can get this meeting started. Thank you, everybody, for being here. First item on the agenda, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Fran. Thank you, Steve. All in favor?
I'll second it.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
All right, next item on the agenda, approval of the previous meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you,
Motion
Dave.
to
Is there a
approve, I
second?
read it.
Second.
Thank you, Fran. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor to approve last month's meeting minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. All right, let's start our business. Well, first thing is the board has to do the performance evaluation of Walter, and he's not in this meeting. He is off island, and Michelle is on the call. But for the board members, Kristen, you can chime in, but I messaged Kristen and she said we can discuss if we want to talk about it in our January meeting when Walter's here. There's some dates or timelines in the law, but she said that we could initiate it or talk about it now and then do Walter's performance evaluation in the January meeting. Any input?
I think we should wait till January when he's present.
Okay, thank you, Fran.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, is the dates and timelines that will we be in compliance if we wait till January? If so, then by all means, let's wait.
Kristen, can you respond to that?
Well, it's supposed to be a annual review every 12 months, and I don't recall the date of the last performance review, but technically to be in compliance, you should submit it within within 12 months. But what I was discussing was that if you guys wanted to to at least raise the issue, and then you could consider if you were going to wait, or I don't know. I think I recall last time that the performance review took place over more than one meeting. So
If we bring it up and discuss it and table it, would that suffice?
well, I mean, again, the law doesn't really give a lot of direction about it. It just says that you have to do an annual review. And again, as I said, I don't recall the exact date of the previous performance review. Do you know when that was done?
I think it wasn't done 2021, so it would be more than 12 months.
On the form too, it says a 6-month review.
I think that might be if it's a new director. I'm not sure though, but yeah, good point, Muñeca. So Kristen, the board wants to be in compliance, so what should we do?
Well, if you wanted to be, in technical compliance, you would have to submit your review within the time frame that's in the law. But again, I mean, it's up to the board. How does it want to proceed, considering that that Walter is off island?
Do we know when the last one was submitted? Like the date exactly?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been November or December.
It was signed off on December 2nd.
So it's already been more than 12 months.
We're already
Yes.
out of compliance.
That's what I was going to bring up. In fact, we're already not in compliance with the law. So what's the repercussions if we don't discuss it today?
Kristen, that's for you.
I don't know. Honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know what the what the penalty is for not timely submitting the evaluation. I really wouldn't be able to tell you that.
So in prior years, the performance evaluations included periods of more than 12 months. So I would like to keep it at 12 months. So just found out that Walter wasn't going to be here. So that's why I'm bringing this up to everybody. The preference definitely is to have Walter here, but I'm going to leave it up to the input of everybody, and then we can vote on it. We just got his document at 3:54 p.m. today.
Yeah, I think we do need to do diligence to populate some comments on that form and that document, and just think it over, and then have Walter present for any questions. I mean, even if we aren't in compliance, who is the authority that would be the one to? Is it the AG's office that would be the one to, I don't know, hand out any repercussions of us? And I think it's more important for us to take the time to do our due diligence to submit a proper review than it would be to, even if we are a month late, then it would be to rush and try to approve it today.
This question about who would be
I-
looking at it.
again, not right off the top of my head, because I don't know what the exact consequence is for not complying with that particular provision.
Okay.
Given that it's like a 12-month period, aren't we like allowed like time to like, I mean,
Like a grace period?
aren't we allowed like, yeah, like a grace period to do the review? Because I mean, if the period goes from December 20 to December 2021, you're not expected to, I mean, we could at least complete it before the end of the year, or, you know, have a special meeting if we need to do it to stay within the, you know, the time frame. But I can't imagine that we're going to be penalized for you know, kind of deferring until Walter gets here. So is there a grace period, Kristen?
Sorry, I was trying to pull up the statute to see if I could you know, take a look at it real quick. And no, I don't think that there's a grace period, but as I said, I also I don't know what the, you know, what the particular consequences would be.
So Kristen, are we able to do that thing where we adjourn? Or not adjourn this meeting right now, but at the end of this meeting, not adjourn it, but pause the meeting for a later date when we can tackle this?
A continuation meeting.
Because technically we have until the end of the month to do this, to meet the
Yeah,
deadline.
I mean, it
So make a
it's,
motion for a continuance.
Right. Kristen, can you comment, please?
yeah, so it just, it says that, you know, it's the performance evaluation has to be done every 12 months. So you know, there's no, again, there's not a lot of, you know, guidance about it, and there's no, as far as I know, there's no regulations that govern that. So so I think it's kind of up to how the board wants to interpret that.
I think we're gonna ask you on how we should interpret it. So if we could have a continuation and we think that that would be good to go, I think that's what the board wants to do.
And you're not talking about continuing the meeting, right? You're just talking about tabling this particular matter, right?
Oh, I think we're open to both, right? First step would be we could tackle this in the January meeting, but if you want, we can table this until we can get Walter before the board to do his performance evaluation if it's before January regular meeting.
Are there any parts of
Can
it
I
that
step
you
in?
would?
Go ahead,
So
Arlene.
if you guys are trying to tackle this before end of the year, just an FYI, it would have to be a continuation meeting, only because you're not giving me enough time for publication as far as a regular meeting is concerned.
Right. Continuation would be easiest, but we'll defer to Kristen.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. Like, Walter's expected back by next week, right? Is that so? So you could you could continue the meeting until a time that he's back, and then you know, and then discuss it. You don't have to wait until January. But I was wondering, I don't know if there's any part of it that you could discuss, or if you want to just defer that and then have the rest of your meeting, and then continue that part of it until he returns. And then that way you would still be able to take it up before your January meeting.
Go ahead, Steve. I think you're on mute.
Okay. What we've done in the past is we've gotten the review, taken it home, and read over it, and came back the next month to do the review. And if I remember right, for the years I've been here, I don't think we've ever. I think the first two we didn't do a review, and someone said, "Oh shoot, we got to do a review," and that's when we did the one that were 2 times previous to this one.
Okay. So the board members just received a document for the review right before this meeting. Pretty much all the members have indicated they'd like time to review it so that we can all populate the columns for the board's action. So Kristen, again, should we wait till January? Should we talk about it now? Should we have a continuation meeting?
Well, as you said, it sounds like the board wants time to review the whatever documentation you received. And I agree with the idea that you certainly don't want to just rush through a evaluation as like you don't want to rubber stamp anything, right? You want time to consider it. But to comply with the 12 months, it sounds like what you probably want to do is just continue the meeting until this item until Walter returns, and that would be before January.
Okay, so hearing that, well, we could talk about it at the end of the meeting, but board members, do you have any issues with not talking about it during this hour and talking about it soon? Or is that what we want to do? And we can continue with the rest of the items on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would
Yes.
motion we table, or we'll continue it and move forward with the agenda today.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Fran, Steve, Manyaka, any strong opinions?
We agree, or I agree.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Okay, thanks for the thumbs up, Steve. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the rest of the business on the agenda. First item, notices of violation. I'm just gonna roll through these. First one, Primos and Samsung. Connie, can we get an update on the hearing officer? Or Arlene? Connie, you're on mute.
Actually, Chairman,
Michelle?
this is Michelle.
Hey,
I
Michelle.
actually have that as part of my administrator's report. So,
Okay.
if you wanted to wait, we could discuss that when I do the administrator's report. Otherwise, I could tell you now if you want.
Yeah, we could hit it on the administrator's report. It's not a big deal.
All right. Okay.
Next one, JJ Pacific, Lin Su Fei Yang. Brian?
Okay, JJ Pacific, they turned in their wetland delineation by a consultant. It's under review by Guam EPA right now between my programs and Jesse's programs. The lead violators there, I don't have the list in front of me. Fei Yang, we're in the process now of trying to close that out. We've done an inspection this week on Fei Yang, and the other ones are scheduled over the next couple of weeks to make sure that they're still not selling the uncertified products. But with Lynn's hardware, again, we have to continue that one with another. That may require additional enforcement actions.
Okay.
But our staff went out for the other facilities this week.
Sounds good. Next one is PD, failed septic system.
Yeah. Again, that's one that should probably be taken off the list. It's just one that we need to just close out. That's but that's the one where everyone's moved out. The violation stopped quite a while
Okay.
ago.
Doucet, Sandcastle.
I think, Chairman, I think we'll work with Arlene to make sure on the next meeting that the agenda gets edited for some of these that have been essentially closed out.
Okay, but just in terms of the action, with Guam EPA to administratively close out.
Yeah, same with Sandcastle and Dusitani.
Okay. Royal Palm Garage.
Okay, for the old Royal Palm Garage. Okay, it's the contract. There's a new owner, so the contractor is working with us on removing some of the trash from that location. And let me. Oops. Here we go. Here I am.
We can
And
hear you.
then go ahead, George. I think Cardonas is on the next.
Okay, so GPP, oh no, Old Royal Palm Garage.
That one?
Last month we noted, inquired with Kristen if she was able to speak with DPW in regards to the NOV.
Right,
Kristen
and
or Conchita?
Yeah. Go ahead.
it's yours, Kristen, because that's my notes too.
Okay.
Is that
Um,
you're to talk about the penalties.
Yes. No, I actually, I had discussed that with Glenn, and this is the one where the owner's off island, right? And
David too,
so, with the owner off island, and there just doesn't seem to be any really anything to pursue. The new owner is again, according to Glenn, getting everything cleaned up, and it's kind of on track, and so we're there's not really anything to pursue with the previous owner, especially considering that he's no longer on island.
Okay, so similar to Verona, I guess Guam EPA is creating a plan on how to address the NOV.
Yeah, for Verona, the notes I have, it's right now, it's still status quo. So I'll need to work with staff on that one. On what's the
Okay.
status.
So I guess maybe the status is Guam EPA to create a plan on how to address the NOV, because right now it's still open or pending.
Right.
Okay, the next one is Cardona.
Yeah, for Cardonas,
Cardonas.
right. He's working on the site, and he has until the end of December. He has until the end of December to complete the removal process, and upon which he will need to also submit the receipts to prove that more importantly, where is he taking these things?
Okay.
So yeah, he has until the end of December, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so in terms of the action, it's Guam EPA is doing follow-up inspections with the
Absolutely.
site.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Conchita. And then the last one on the list is Nokaoi.
Nokaoi, my understanding is Nokaoi has already made payment. And so there is some documentation that still needs to be submitted. And so I will circle back on that, but they've made payment.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And is there anything, Brian, Conchita, anybody to add to this list in the past month?
Yes, Chairman, we have 3 new stop work orders that were issued over the past month from the Water Division. One was to LMS for working on an expired permit. That's been resolved already. They've already gotten their permit renewed. Another was to UMS Heavy Equipment for working without a permit on a hard fill located in Sinahanya. And they had come in for a permit earlier in the year. We had issued them a letter with a number of things that they needed to turn in, such as an erosion and sediment control plan. And we found that they were continuing to work despite that letter telling them that they could not work until they received the permit. They're working with us right now to resolve that and get the documents turned in so that we can get their permit approved. But that stop work order still is in effect. And then we issued another stop work order to a property owner on the property directly across from the DPW permit center on sort of a cliff top right above Tumon, where the owner had been scraping the very steep kind of cliffside below the kind of viewpoint of his property without any permits. And that's still in effect. He did not have a permit, and we're still evaluating that one. So we have those three that should be added to our website soon, and we'll be following up with those and reporting on those at the next meeting.
Nothing for the Air and Land Division. And I tell you, with the limited staff right now, I'll tell you, Mr. Chairman, we're focusing on our authorization for hazardous waste. We're working also on the SIP, which we'll be talking a little bit further at the end of the agenda. And, you know, it's the end of the year. There's a number of obligations with the federal government that the limited staff that we have need to focus in on. But whatever, in terms of enforcement action, I'll work with Arlene to make sure that it gets onto the website and that she notifies the board accordingly. Thank you very much for your patience.
Yes, thank you, Conchita, and thank you, Brian. Go ahead.
Wasn't there another solid waste NOV that was issued?
You're going to have to, I mean, right now we're doing there's some authorization things that we need to have done. That between that and the ORDOT dump post-closure care plan. So if my mind is a bit foggy, I apologize for that in advance. But since you obviously have that information, Kristen, please share. Don't turn off your camera. Where are you?
No, I apologize. I thought there was a solid waste NOV that had been issued. That's all.
Right, from the last month, I will need to double check because we have that reported on a weekly basis, and I just need to get with Arlene so she'll notify the board. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Conchita and Kristen. Okay, next on the agenda, we'll do the administrator's report.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and directors. It is with a heavy heart and great sadness and unexpected, but I want to emphasize that it was not COVID related. But if we could all just keep her family in our thoughts and in our prayers, that would be most appreciated, I'm sure, by her family. This week, we also submitted selections of the 2 environmental health specialists, 1 positions, and 1 biologist position. I apologize. It was submitted last week, Friday. Also, the agency is accepting applications, DOA applications and resumes for limited term appointments for the following positions: environmental specialists, biologists, inspectors, environmental technicians, and administrative assistants. These position descriptions, qualifications, GovGuam applications, and pay grades will be posted on the agency website by close of business tomorrow. As far as budget and procurement, the Administrative Services Division will submit the FY23 budget to BBMR, and that's due tomorrow, so it will be submitted tomorrow. And earlier you asked about the procurement for the hearing officer services. So we are currently in price negotiations, and that contract will be finalized once that's completed. As far
Real quick,
as
Michelle,
go ahead.
where's that at? Because that's the same status last month. Was that with Guam EPA or the hearing officer or with the AG's office?
I don't know if Connie is able to have her speaker work at this time. Earlier, she was not able to get on to. Oh, she's coming.
What's the question again? Sorry.
Where it's at?
Which one?
The contract for the hearing officer.
Kristen.
Kristen, sorry. So Connie said that it's under review with Kristen.
Okay.
Then could you elaborate?
No. There has there has been some, we did have to make some revisions to the contract form. And so I was, working with Connie and Serena on that. So.
We should have that out with the changes that we just added based on the AG's, one of the AG's recommendations. We should have that out hopefully by tomorrow, if not early next week, to the selected vendor.
Okay, so for the minutes, we'll play with Kristen, Connie, and Serena for edits and expect for it to go to the potential hearing officer by next week.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
As far as any policy updates, any proposed legislation is actually still in committee, hasn't left committee, so there's no updates on any of the proposed bills at this time. Moving on to current projects, the abandoned derelict vessel removal update. Currently, the Navy salvage dive team is on pause, but they have one last removal, which is Guam 2. And that pause is necessary so that the team can perform maintenance on their equipment, assess additional equipment to complete the removal, and work will tentatively recommence in January with a new team. Currently, the removal of the ADV metallic debris from waste transition site is underway, so that's being properly disposed of. Or the ORDOT post-closure care plan held its public hearing on December 1st at Aguirre Johnson Middle School. Conchita, along with the GBB Senior Vice President Chris Lunn, conducted that hearing. Key dates for the permit are as follows. Official written comments on the PCCP must be received by the agency and postmarked no later than 5 p.m. on December 27th, 2021. And then written responses to those comments are due January 7th, 2022. And then agency notice of decision is due January 14th, 2022. Our agency continues to participate in the Guam Green Growth Bring Your Own Bag weekly outreach events at stores around the island. And as you may know, the administrator is currently on official travel to San Francisco and meeting with Region 9 folks. He is actually meeting with the new Region 9 regional administrator. He's also meeting with the toxicologist Patrick Wilson regarding PFAS. He's also meeting with Air and Radiation Division Director regarding the DERA and Clean Air Act program. He's also meeting with Land, Chemicals, and Redevelopment Director on RCRA issues. And then he also has meetings with other Region 9 folks regarding water infrastructure funding for Guam, zero waste, brownfields, inspection and enforcement technical assistance, and I guess just general leadership with the Pacific Islands office. And he'll have a full report prepared when he returns. Would you also like to discuss the RRF, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please feel free.
So as of today, fiscal year 21 invoices, total 698 invoices processed, which is equivalent to $1,003,348.75. And of that total, 1,932 abandoned vehicles have been collected, 8,910 tires, 1,981 white goods, 636 electronics, 1,385.5 cubic yards of green waste, and 966.51 cubic yards of loose metals. So I know that Sabrina is working with the MCOG to close out fiscal year 21 by December 31st, 2021. So there's still a little under $300,000 that still need to be reconciled from the $1.3 million that was allocated to MCOG. And then from November 18th through the 22nd, we actually received a total of 191 invoices for FY22, totaling $231,315. And so far in that short period, 388 abandoned vehicles have been collected, 1,638 tires, 653 white goods, 178 electronics, 1,039.5 cubic yards of green waste, and 508 cubic yards of loose metals. Sabrina also reports that the memorandum of agreement is still being held at the AG's office, I guess due to concerns on processing of abandoned vehicles on the MCOG's work plan. And I think it just has to do with the definition of abandoned vehicles. And I don't know whether or not Kristen is aware of the delay, if she'd want to speak on that, but I know that it's issues regarding the definition. Kristen, do you want to expand on the delay if you have any information?
Well, I know that Carl Espaldon was trying to get a hold of me to discuss this, and so we kind of crossed a little bit. So I don't know. It sounds like there might be some further development, but I don't know what it is to be able to update you right now.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. And that concludes the administrator's report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Michelle. So just real quick, for FY21, they spent $1 million. So they're planning to return 300K, or they still need to submit invoices, or I'm not sure if you know.
Right, so they have until December 31st to submit any invoices that were made until September 30th of this year to reconcile with Sabrina. So as of today, which is what she's been able to tally as of today, it's $1,003,348.75. So a little under $300,000 still needs to be accounted for
Okay.
and vetted by December 31st. Otherwise, Connie will work with MCOG to deobligate those funds and return it back to the RRF.
Great. Yeah, it's a great plan. With the fiscal year ending September 30 and then closing the books within 3 months and then returning the rest. And then for FY22, 230K of purchase orders have been given out, even with the MOA still being under review, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so it sounds like the program is moving forward even with the red tape, quote unquote. So it's great to hear that the money is being used to clean up these items. Board members, any questions or comments?
One question, please. The MOA, is that the 850,000 that was released to the mayor's council?
Yeah, I'm not sure on the amount, but yes, it's the program for this fiscal year that we voted based on the Mr. Angel Sablon's presentation.
Correct. I recall. I believe I'm accurate. It's 850K.
Okay. So yeah, that's the program that Michelle was talking about.
All right. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from any board member? All right, hearing none. The next one on our list, Arlene, we put was the 2022 through 23 state revolving fund project priority list. Who wanted to discuss this?
That would be Brian, sir.
Hi, yeah, I got some slides here the idea with this presentation is to prepare you guys for the next meeting when we go over this. This will be a process that involves the board.
Okay,
hold on
great.
just a second. I'll share the slides. And then we also had I don't know where it is on the agenda, but we also had a presentation for you guys on our permitting process improvements, which are pretty
Okay,
impressive.
so if it's two presentations, can we just hit this one item and then we'll dive into the list? It's one that has a due date of this month that the board's been tracking. It's the air pollution state implementation plans update.
Okay, do you want me to stop this now and you do that first?
Yeah, you could keep, doesn't matter, you could keep sharing your screen, but if someone could just provide a quick update on where we're at based on the December 31 deadline.
Yeah, certainly. One moment. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the draft, yes, I'm on. The draft SO2 SIP was sent to Guam Power Authority for their review on December 8th. And it's a modeling report, so we're waiting to hear back from them. And then let's see, the second thing is the GAR is being revised by Roland based on comments provided by Kristen. That was done the end of November.
So is a time extension expected to be granted before December 31?
I don't know. In short, I don't know. And Roland, is not on the line right now, but I can certainly get that information for you and then talk to Arlene so she can get that to you about the extension. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Conchita.
You're very welcome.
All right, Brian, you have the floor.
Okay, I'm just going to present the permitting system stuff first because that's how I had all my stuff queued up to go. If that's okay with you. Okay.
Yeah, go for it. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just to give you a quick overview of the permitting load that we deal with in the water division. This is probably our biggest workload for the whole division. This is some data that I kept last year as part of a project we've been doing to monitor our statistics. And we processed a total of 751 permits, excluding a 30-day period where I did not keep statistics while I was on vacation. So it's about 800 basically construction permits a year that we do, even with COVID going on. And you can see there the breakdown. So this is a very large load of work that we get. And for being fairly slow with good reason. When I first got here, we made some changes to our paper-based permit process, which eliminated some of the kind of quality control type issues that we were having. But we were still pretty slow. And the big reason for that was because it was a paper-based permit process. And sorry about that. And because of that, the permit package had to go from person to person and program to program throughout the agency. And it just took a very long time. Well, we have an electronic system here at Guam EPA called Walters, which is, and I know that our administrator doesn't like that, but it stands for Water, Air, Land, Territorial Environmental Record System. And it had been built several years ago with several ideas in mind for how it could be used. And one of those ideas was to speed up the permit process and allow Guam EPA staff to review anything that comes into the agency in a simultaneous fashion. It's a GIS-based system, so there's map data in there already. It's a fantastic tool. But because of our workload and personnel issues we were having, we were not able to really get to the building permit process in Walters until this year. So starting in June of this year, we put together an implementation committee with all the different departments here that manage the permit process. And we held weekly meetings, and we built this permitting system up kind of from the ground. And I'd like to show you guys a quick demonstration of what that looks like in practice. So if I'll just switch over to another window here and show you the actual system. Okay, so this here is the live view of my permit queue. So if I open up Walters right now and go to my permits, you can see over here, this is what I see. I see a list of permits that are ready for my review as the chief engineer. Now I've got one that's open for you already so that we don't waste too much time loading screens. This is for a single family residence with a septic system up in Gigo. And you can see as soon as you open it up, you get a map that shows you the location of the site. And you can see kind of an orange circle, semicircle line there. And if I unlock the map, I can zoom out and I can show you that that's the wellhead protection area around a well. So we have a lot of information in this map that helps us determine the types of requirements that are needed for the permit so that we don't make mistakes and accidentally permit a septic system within a wellhead protection area. For example, there's many other examples as well, including wetlands. And if you scroll down the screen here, you can see some basic permitting information. You can see all of the attachments provided by the applicant are here that the employees can then download and look at in PDF form, the application, the drawings, the lot information, the land ownership information. And then we have a section called agency attachments where then we can upload our permit documents that the administrator would sign once everybody's approved. And then down here is the real key part of this system. And this is the routing and review list. And you can see there all the different programs that are listed. And they're all, you can see under the order here. So all the main programs are listed with the same order. So they all get to see the permit at the same time. And once they've approved it, it comes to me as the chief engineer at the next level up. I do a final review for everything. And when it's all good, I click on approve down here at the bottom, and then it moves up to the administrator, the next level for their final processing. There's other things we can do with this as well. If there's a problem with the permit, we can stop it. We can use this to write letters to the applicant. It's fairly manual right now. I'm going to stop this and go back to the slides now. That was our demo. Hold on a minute. About that, juggling windows here. Okay, so back to our presentation. So here's the results. So we did this detailed statistical analysis over the last year and a half or so, and we determined that we were taking about 56 days to process an entire permit from the day we took it into the agency to the day it left the agency, when we were doing the hard copy paper permitting process. As soon as we implemented this digital process back in June, we dropped that down to 12 days. And as you can see now, for the current quarter that we're almost closing out right here, we've got it down to 1 week. So it made an incredible difference in the speed at which that we can process permits. And the reason for that is because it allows for that simultaneous review by all of the personnel in the agency. There's also some smaller things that make a difference too. Just the fact that it comes to you immediately. You don't have to go pick up a paper document in your mailbox and bring it back to your desk or deliver it to somebody else. Some of the other big benefits, like I described already, are the decision support tools that we have built into it now, and we're continuing to add to that. Like I said, the wellhead protection areas that you saw on there, we have wetland layers. We have we can find the distance to waters of Guam. We can see other projects that are nearby and find historical permits. And it also serves as a centralized record system, which with the paper process, we have no record that stays at Guam EPA. It all transfers back to DPW at the end of the day, and we have to go to DPW to get a copy of the plans. Well, now our inspectors are able to go out in the field and look at those plans in the field using an iPad or whatever device they have, if they have the cellular service. And our inspectors have been doing that. Our next steps with this process, we just began this week the implementation of the Agency Review Committee position statement process, which is another permitting process that Guam EPA has been criticized for in the past for being slow on. This will allow us now again to have all of our programs review that and get it done as quickly as possible. We ran a training program earlier this week, training all the agency staff on how to properly write conditions and comments for those types of permits so that we get a good quality letter coming out. We'll be implementing the same process for environmental impact assessments, federal consistency reviews, NEPA categorical exclusion reviews. We get a lot of these that come into our agency. The federal consistencies and the NEPA Cat X reviews in particular come in frequently from other GovGuam agencies. And this is whenever they get federal money that they need to spend on a project, they have to run through this process. So this will speed up that process as well. And then one of the bigger issues for us is the military design reviews. Those are huge projects, huge document loads. And in the past, we received those in huge rolls of paper copies that only one person could look at a time. Now the entire agency can look at those. As we move forward with this, we have some more major upgrades we would like to make. One being that the creation of an applicant portal. We do have all the basic processes are in place already to allow an applicant to upload their own documents. Right now, the applicant brings us a CD and our staff transfers that CD into the Walters system. But hopefully within the next year or so, we'll have that all online so somebody can just go to our website, click a button that says apply for permit and do this themselves. Another thing that we plan to do as soon as we're able to is to implement full digital approval of these permits. Right now, once the administrator gets it, it has to be printed and signed manually and scanned and put back into the system. But it is built to do that in an all digital fashion. And then, of course, this whole thing raises the idea of whether or not the rest of the GovGuam permitting system could be incorporated into this system. And there's absolutely no reason we couldn't. As I showed you on that routing form, it's just a matter of creating new groups and choosing their approval levels. You could create a group for each agency, and each agency could then have its own subgroups in there. So it has a lot of potential to be used for the rest of GovGuam, should they decide to make use of it. A few limitations I just want to bring up here. I think we've all been very excited by the dramatic improvements that we've seen in terms of processing speed for these permits. And a lot of that's just been excitement because we've been doing it. And a lot of our permits that we get are for relatively small projects like single family homes and such. But this doesn't change the fact, even though it allows people to look at it at the same time, it doesn't change the fact that we still don't have enough staff to review the large detailed projects, such as the big military projects and other larger projects. And those still take hours and hours of work to review. So it doesn't address that shortcoming. Funding has been limited this year. We are pursuing some different grant funding. And we will be pursuing that soon. That will hopefully increase the funding we have available to support that contractor work. But in the future, this will require a stable funding source to maintain the system. And that, of course, raises the question of whether the benefits from the system are worth the cost. And so far, our judgment on that is that, yeah, it is definitely worth the cost. This provides such a dramatic improvement in our processing time that it's got to be worth that minimal cost to keep the thing running.
And this is great, Brian. And also, like you said, if the larger government of Guam can get into the system so that each agency can review it simultaneously, that would be a game changer for the industry.
Yeah, and I don't know the details of that. I know that GovGuam is working on that on their own. They may have a different project. I think our assurance has been given to us that they've assured us that we can still continue using our system, but they may be working on their own system. But I think this really demonstrates the advantage of any system that will allow everybody in the government to review these applications in a digital manner at the same time. Because the permit process right now, again, that's the main reason it goes so slowly through GovGuam, is because that package has to pass from agency to agency. And as we've demonstrated within our agency now, that can reduce your processing time by 80% in our case, more than 80%, almost 90%.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And yeah, good to see that, at least with Guam EPA, the response and review time has been cut down.
Yeah.
This is really impressive, Brian. Thank you for doing that, or whoever came up with it. It's like amazing.
Thanks, Director.
Very efficient.
Yeah, like I said, the system was in place before I got here, but just recently it was us and our team of probably like 75% of Guam EPA that put the processes together and made this happen. So it was really, truly a group effort. Are there any other questions, or should I move on to the SRF primer here?
No, I just wanted to congratulate the EPA for doing that and being a model for other agencies and bringing Guam to the 21st century.
Agree. Excellent
Thank
job.
you. Okay, well, I will move into this topic then. So the SRF, let me go back to that slide here. So there's two funds that come through Guam EPA from the US EPA called the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund and Clean Water State Revolving Fund construction grant programs. And Guam EPA's role in this, I'll explain in a moment here. But this is a funding source that's provided annually to all states and territories for both drinking water and wastewater infrastructure. The grant that's called Clean Water is actually related to wastewater. For Guam and the other territories, the funds are provided as construction grants rather than revolving loan funds. The other states have to run these as a revolving loan fund where they loan the money to a utility and the utility pays it back at a low interest rate. But for the territories, we're allowed to give these as grants. Over the past 10 years or so, Guam's been getting about $10 million a year total from these two sources. But with the new bipartisan infrastructure bill, that has increased dramatically to about $26 million a year for the next 5 years, is what we've been told by US EPA. And it is the US EPA Region 9 that actually administers the program. In Guam, the Guam Waterworks Authority is the only authorized grantee for these funds, and Guam EPA's job in this process is to develop what's called the project priority list. And I will explain that to some extent here, but we'll get into this more over the next couple of months. So the project priority list, it is a list of projects and the estimated amount of funding that it will take, ranked in priority of the most important to the least important, and funding is supposed to occur from that, from that number one ranked project down to the last ranked in order. The list itself must be based on guidance that's provided by US EPA and based on a system developed by the territory, a scoring system. The scoring system that we used has been in use since probably the 1980s without significant change. We did not change it this time around. We worked with GWA this year. GWA develops, of course, the list of projects because they know which projects they want to do. If we have ideas too, we throw that in there. GWA puts together the cost of those projects, and then we all get together as a group and we evaluate, we score those projects based on the criteria that are listed in our criteria, or our project prioritization methods document, which we'll be putting out for public comment pretty soon. And those are all based on public health, improvements to water quality, protection of drinking water sources, and projects that benefit the greatest number of people. So once Guam EPA and Guam Waterworks agree on those scores and then create that project priority list, it goes to the public process. And let me go to that. We have to advertise that list and the proposed methodology for a period of 30 days to allow the public to comment on it. We then hold a public hearing at the end of that 30-day period after it's completed, at which we can also accept oral comments in addition to the written comments submitted during the public comment period. The agency is then supposed to consider all testimony presented and then prepare a responsiveness summary and modify the list as necessary or as appropriate. But the list can only be modified based on those established criteria that we discussed. We are not allowed to modify it just based on any kind of arbitrary reason that someone may bring up. Once that list has been modified and the responsiveness summary with the public comments is prepared, then that gets presented to the board of directors, and The board of directors then votes on adoption during a regular meeting. And after that, only after that can Guam EPA submit that list to the US EPA for their final approval, which is necessary then to allow the funds to be released for construction. For the list itself, once it's adopted, the original intention by the US EPA was to revise that list on an annual basis. However, the lists in the past have been so long, and the fund, Guam EPA and Guam Waterworks have agreed that if there's no changes to the projects, they can continue using the list. Once the list is provided to the US EPA manages that list. They manage all changes, they manage all the construction, they manage all the release of funds to the Guam Waterworks Authority. But if there are any changes to the list in terms of a project that comes up that's an emergency project that's not on the list, or a project that's ranked farther down the list that they want to build earlier, that does get communicated to Guam EPA first for any comments. But the US EPA is the main manager of that process. So the timeline that's coming up now, and I believe this is my final slide for you guys. That final list right now is under review by GWA. We're expecting them to come back to us within the next few days or a week or so with an approval. The list as it stands right now has 14 drinking water projects on it, and some of those are island-wide. So those are large projects that could be, for example, replacement of asbestos cement pipe, right? That could occur anywhere on the island, and with multiple sub-projects. And there's 29 wastewater projects on the island, or on the list, and some of those, again, are also island-wide. And one thing I need to point out, one of the reasons why there's more wastewater projects on there is because usually the wastewater funding accounts for about 2/3 of that total funding amount. But anyway, if we get the list back from GWA within the next week and we advertise for public comment, we expect to hold the public hearing sometime in late January, which would then place a possible adoption by the board and votes in the February board meeting. So do you guys have any questions? I think that's the last thing I've got. Yep.
I just had a few questions. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, you mentioned, Captain, the 10 million that's allocated and is awarded via grants. Is that applicable to residential that want to put in a septic system, for example?
Generally not. There's very strict guidance on what we can and cannot do with that funding. And again, all the funding has to go to GWA. However, GWA did use that funding with approval from Guam EPA in the past to establish a loan program for private residents to connect to sewer, folks that had a septic tank, but sewer came in later. That I'm not sure if that's on the list, any kind of revisions, but they have been working on revisions to that program to make it easier for people to get those grants. It was a little bit difficult for folks to get that grant. It's possible that some of this funding may refresh that fund as well. But the grant cannot go to build any septic systems at all. It's intended to protect the groundwater. So projects to remove septic systems and connect people to sewer, if done by the utility, are definitely something that I believe are on the list and are definitely something that would receive a high priority. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it answers to an extent. During the public hearing, if that is brought up by the general public, could that then be addressed and voted on by Guam Waterworks and EPA?
Sorry, sir, I couldn't hear you there. You're kind of muffled.
Yeah, I said I understand. Excuse me, your explanation, but during the public hearing phase of it, if the general public brought that up, would it be entertained and entered into to seek approval if septic tank or there's 10 million could be used and applicable to homeowners?
Dave, you got to get closer to the microphone.
I apologize. I'm using my not so smartphone. I'm talking right to the speaker. Anyway, never mind.
Well, I think I understood your question. I think you said that during the public hearing, if the public brings it up, projects that could connect, if the public brings up the idea of whether or not the money could be used to fund people constructing septic tanks, That's the part I couldn't hear for sure, or if it was to connect to sewer, whether or not we would address that. Well, we have to address all comments that are brought up, but changes to the list can only be based on the federal criteria. So that's something that would not be allowable, the construction of new septic systems, as far as I know. But that's something we would have to look into, yes, and respond to.
Thank you, Brian. You were kind of cutting in and out, but one of the questions I had was, is there an existing list, or is this something that's new?
Yeah, there is an existing list. I think it was from fiscal year 2016. It hasn't changed. They're even at $10 million a year. They've barely made a dent in that list because the list of needed projects in Guam is enormous, as you probably are aware. So this is a significant update to that list, but it also includes quite a few projects that were still on that list that had not been funded yet.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other board members? Do you have any questions, or does anybody have questions or comments? Thank you, Brian. Was that the conclusion of it?
Yes, pending any questions.
All right, thank you, thank you. Those are all the items on the agenda for today's meeting. We're gonna tackle Walter's performance evaluation and board members, also like the format of the meetings, the meeting minutes. If you have any like certain topics or goals or outlooks that you want to bring up, we could talk about it at our next meeting. If we want to structure anything differently for the next 1 to 3 years, just go ahead, feel free to think about it and comment. So at this time, is it the will of the board to have a continuation meeting so that we can close out Walter's performance review?
Yeah.
I think we should just wait till January. Quite honestly, I mean it's a crazy time during the holidays, and lots of people are busy, and I don't think that's going to be too big of a deal if we wait another few weeks for the new year.
Okay, Maniako wants to have it at our next regular meeting. Any other suggestions?
I'm fine with deferring to the January meeting.
Fran's okay with the January meeting? Steve Hollister?
I'm good. Waiting to January. It'd be hard for me to get back on here for a meeting before New Year's.
And Kristen, with quorum, doesn't it have to be the exact people to join the continuation meeting? You can't have a different set of members for quorum. I don't know. Is that correct?
That's a concept I'm not familiar with. But if you're not going to have a quorum, you can't have a meeting.
No, my question, well, this is what I heard from our hearing officer, but it's the same members have to be at the next meet. You can't meet quorum. Anyways, we're not sure about it, but that's what my understanding was, that you got to have the same members to meet quorum. It can't be new other members to meet the 5 for quorum. Dave Duenas, are you in agreement with discussing this at our next regular meeting?
Yeah, I motion that no problem. We can wait till January if everybody's okay with it. I'm ready to vote on that.
Okay, so yeah, we'll go forward with that. Kristen, let us know if you have any further comments. But with that, let us know if there's a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Sorry, can you just clarify? Because I think that your a board member made a motion, but I don't think you guys voted on it.
No, we didn't vote on the motion yet because we didn't have a second. But what was your comment?
Just that.
Okay.
That I didn't think there was a vote.
So the plan is to discuss Walter's evaluation in the January meeting. That's what we discussed in the email. And so I think you're okay with that, Kristen?
That's for the board to decide.
I second the motion to defer the meeting to January, if that's what we're waiting for.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then so our next meeting date will be the third Thursday in January. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
And if Steve, if you wanted to add things to the agenda, we just do that on the email. That will come out with the attached January agenda.
I guess we could talk about that right now. Kristen, can we discuss the agenda over email?
You can't make any you can't really discuss any board business over email. Everything that the board does has to be done through an open meeting.
I guess they could submit ideas to Arlene.
Okay.
Kristen?
I guess I don't really know your usual process for adding items to the agenda. If there's, I know that in the past, if there was an issue that came up at one meeting, then you wanted to put it in the agenda for the next meeting so that it could be included. Or, other than that, I don't know your process for, how things come up between meetings and they get added to the agenda.
They get Arlene has a draft agenda and then it gets published for publication. So I guess we'll follow that process.
And then the board approves the agenda at the meeting before you move forward with it, right?
Yeah, at the beginning of each
So
meeting.
then you would just want to.
What's that?
Sorry.
Sorry, you broke out. Can you repeat that? Okay.
Just that you should just follow the same process then.
Okay, thank you. So there was a second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, all opposed?